Kachan, turn your game down.
God damn it.
Anyway. Anyway, we're live, Kachan. College life. Gotta love it. Kachan. College life. Gotta love it. Hint the sarcasm.
Yeah.
Hint the sarcasm.
I get the sarcasm.
Seems like you don't normally... Hello, King David. Anyway. I know this is a really early or late live stream, but oh well, deal with it. Hello, Saiyan Princess.
Hello.
Jeez, Saiyan Princess, you really must like us, because you're almost in every one of the live streams. Kachan, don't explode my computer!
Sorry, goddamn. Fucking fart. Oh, shit.
Did you bust a hole in the wall again?
No, I just burned a textbook. God damn it.
Well, I mean... Todoroki paid for it, it's okay.
That had his homework in it that was due tomorrow.
Oh well.
And it was completed.
Oh well. That's what he gets for leaving his textbook out. And why would you care if he passes or fails, Kachan?
I don't know.
Hello, Marine. Kachan, your lap is warm.
What the?
Did you forget I was sitting on your lap, Kachan?
Completely.
I mean, that's what you get for playing a video game and not paying attention to your roommate.
You act like I never paid attention to you, you little shit.
Sometimes. I wonder. Anyway.
You're trying to egg me on, aren't you?
I mean, isn't that what you did to me back in high school?
Fair point.
Karma's a bitch, isn't it, Kachan?
Yes.
I mean, I could always do this. Oh, Kachan.
Oh no. What are you doing to me?
How?
Fuck. Damn. Fucking nerd.
And yes, there is flirting. Kachan's being a butt. So.
What?
Hmm.
Being butt.
Hmm. Aw, got the hiccups, Kachan.
Oh,
Hello, Lux.
there's a burp. There's a Lux in here.
There's a Lux in here. Also, anyway, I shall return. I gotta get up for a moment. I gotta get off of Kachan's warm lap for a minute. And I will be right back. You guys can ask Kachan questions. Don't make them too weird because then he'll explode you. I shall return. Have fun, Kachan.
Yeah, sure. All the fuck. What the? What kind of question is that? I love video games. What do you think? I hardly get any of my shit done, but I still pass the class. And yes, I do have that Deku booty on me. Well, when he gets back. Touch him and he'll die. Damn it. Ugh. Ask me questions, I'll start blowing shit up. I already lost a textbook tonight. I can make a lot more disappear. Oh wait, shit, Izumi's in here. I can't do shit. Fuck. Hi. Cereal. I really don't care about either one as long as it's food, alright? What the? You know, I really can't say because I have everything. Fight me. I got both. There's literally only going to be one person asking me questions because I'll just start blowing shit up. Is there really ever a one favorite video game, though? I mean, is there really ever one favorite video game? Jesus Christ, what's taking that nerd so long? Hello, Xavier. Damn it. Deku, you better hurry up. I'm getting bored here. Sebi. Where do you people see Sebi? I don't see him. I don't see this Sebi Moon, the nerd coup you people keep referencing. What? Why do you people think Sebi's here? What really makes you think he has the time to be here? God damn it. I do not sound like an edgy hedgehog. I swear to God. I'll start exploding you. Son of a bitch. Favorite weather? Really don't have a favorite season, to be honest. I really wish I did, though. Yeah, I kind of prefer winter. Favorite part of Halloween? I get to wear my wolf ears. Ugh. Do I drink? I'm not allowed to because Deku won't let me. Deku doesn't let me drink, sadly. But I wish I could, and I'm not really old enough right now. I mean, we're in college. We're not really old enough yet. Oh. That was good. Ugh. God damn it. Well, hello, Renafox, and you haven't missed much. People just trying to ask me questions, me trying not to blow shit up, trying to get an assignment, but not really feeling it. Normal. Brightened orange juice. What the hell is that? Jesus Christ, Deku, you're taking forever. How long have you stuck with you idiots? It's alright. This autocorrect thing always fucks me. Blowing up about 5 phones because of it.
So what the hell did I miss?
Just one person repeatedly asking me questions, even though there's like 6 people watching.
Are you guys annoying, Kachan?
Yeah, they're not annoying me.
Okay, I'm gonna sit back down on your lap. Whee! Back on your warm lap.
Trying to get some homework done here.
Homework? Kachan, you're playing a video game.
I'm doing homework at the same time.
Kachan, that homework's not due until December.
What the hell am I working on then?
Kachan, you and I both know that both of us get our homework done during class because we're just, I guess, as you put it, that awesome.
Guess you're right.
So we don't have homework. Unlike Todoroki.
What the hell am I working on?
You look like you're drawing.
Oh.
I didn't know you were an artist, Kachan.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kachan's tired. He's not dead.
Apparently earlier they said I sounded like some weird edgy hedgehog or something.
Oh, you mean Shadow the Hedgehog from the Sonic games?
Yeah, they were saying I was sounding like him.
Kachan doesn't sound like Sonic or Shadow. They sound like Kachan. Because Kachan's better.
And if I sound weird, it's because I may have a slight headache, might be getting sick. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Kachan's been sick for about 3 days now. You guys be nice to Kachan.
Yeah, my headache's not really going away either, so...
Anyway, I have to do an art thing for Miss Aizawa. And I don't know why she's having me do pony things. Shut the heck up, computer. Anyway, I have to do this weird, like, My Little Pony art. I don't know what Miss Aizawa is making me do anymore at this point. I'm so confused.
I know, I'd hate to say anything bad about her, but
she's a butt.
She can be.
Anyway. I can hear you two, you know.
Sorry, Miss Aizawa, I didn't say anything.
You better not have, boy. I'll be having a chat with your mother later.
Fine. Is she gone?
I think so. Do you boys forget that I'm always watching? Kachan, you okay?
Made me cough up a lung.
Kachan, are you okay?
I'm fine. Swear to God, Miss Aizawa scares the shit out of me as bad as your sister Izumi.
My sister scares the heck out of you even more than anybody.
She does. You laugh at me. Don't laugh at me.
Alistair? Oh, you mean that radio demon from Has Been Hotel? Nah, Kachan doesn't sound like him either.
Nope. I'm my own person.
Kachan doesn't even know who that is.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about, so fuck you.
Kachan,
What?
don't make me take you to the bedroom.
we in the bedroom?
We're in our living room, Kachan.
Still a bedroom me.
Kachan, do I need to remind you who the Alpha and the Omega is here? Kachan!
What?
Don't die. Oops.
You think I'm trying to?
Kachan, we need you to be the #1 hero.
I know. Good night, King David. Have sweet dreams of me blowing your ass up.
Kachan!
What?
I'll have sweet dreams of kicking you in the ass. Whoop, there was Mr. Wolfen. I heard a Mr. Wolfen in the background.
Oh no. Uh-oh.
Kachan, excuse you.
Yeah, God damn it. Brain's not working.
Since when does your brain ever work? Oh wait, you think with your other brain. Never mind. Oh, what's the matter, Kachan? Don't like how I'm able to be a smartass to you now? Or do you seem to love it? Because, I'm sitting on your lap, Kachan. I feel everything.
Shut up.
I feel everything, Kachan. Oh, hi, Corbin.
Hi.
Are you looking for Todoroki-kun, or are you just wandering?
I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Well, you can come in. Don't be a stalker.
I'm not being a stalker. Jeez.
Kachan, I don't think he realizes that stalking outside people's rooms is being a stalker.
I was just looking in to see who was all here. Didn't I already give... I could have sworn I already gave you the invite to just come in whenever you wanted. I know, but I don't like to just intrude.
I mean, no offense, Corbin, but Kachan and I both gave you the okay to just come in here when you need, an escape. And also, Corbin, you're forgetting about something.
What?
Do you forget that you tend to come in here when you're feeling, issues?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, at least Kachan hasn't gone into heat yet.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it would be really bad if Kachan went into heat out of nowhere. Especially during a stream. That'd be bad. Wouldn't it, Kachan?
Izuku, I know exactly what you're planning, and don't you fucking dare.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, yet.
I'm not doing anything, Kachan. How dare you?
Son of a bitch. Fuck you.
Oh, am I not allowed to play? Isn't that how wolves play, though? Biting?
You are asking for it. Fuck you, Red Fox.
Hey, Corbin, you want to help me?
Am I gonna get exploded if I do?
If you're holding him down to where he can't use his quirk, then no.
You know what? I'll allow this. One time I will not explode your ass. Okay.
Besides, if Kachan goes into heat, Corbin, you're leaving everything else to me.
Oh, I already know that.
I just need you to hold him down. hold him down.
Okay.
Because what I'm about to do is going to make him squirm.
Don't you fucking do it.
Yup.
God damn it.
Oh, what's the matter, Kachan? Or should I say your name in the way I used to say it? Kachan?
Damn it.
I am just so evil, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
There's a reason for that, Kachan.
No. No, no, no.
Kachan.
No.
Kachan.
I'm breaking this easily.
Ignore it.
No.
Hello,
No.
Kachan.
Son of a bitch.
Do you really honestly think that my little brother would be brave enough to even attempt to do anything to you? Aww. Were you expecting my little brother?
Maybe.
Well, too bad. He's gonna be late getting to the dormitories.
What'd you do to him?
I did no such thing. I would never hurt my little brother. Hello, everyone. You should already know who I am. Hello, Corbin.
Hi.
Seems Kachan has a problem. Heat much?
Damn it.
Oh, and I forgot to mention Kachan. Happy Halloween.
Fuck you.
I think it's gonna be the other way around this Halloween, Kachan. Aw. What's the matter? Should I go get Izumi instead?
Yeah, you just keep laughing away, why don't you?
Oh, I could go get someone else. Excuse me. Corbin, you can let him go for now.
Okay.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go get somebody.
Who the hell are you going to get?
Him. Hey, Baku bro!
Oh no, god damn it, it's shitty hair.
I have a name, and my hair's not that different from yours.
Mine is awesome. Yours is shitty.
I guess that means your hair's shitty then, huh? Anyway. Come on, Baku bro. We gotta go do some stuff. It's Halloween. Let's go.
Hold on, let me get my ears. Okay, there we go.
You do realize, Baku bro, whenever we walk out of the dorms and into the moonlight, it kind of already naturally happens.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, that's right, you're partially sick. Sorry about that, Baku bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, come on, Baku bro, let's go.
No stealing, but that's kind of the fun part, isn't it? Okay, maybe not.
Anyway, so what are we gonna do?
I don't
What are we
steal that much candy. Jeez, you guys act like I'm the bad guy.
If anyone's the bad guy, it's me. Oops.
If anything, kids just give me candy for no reason. Even I try to reject it, and they're like, "Just take it."
Well,
I can't say no to their adorable faces.
Well, Ka-chan, they're afraid of you. Haven't you realized that yet, Ka-chan?
They're not afraid of me. I'm the #1 hero.
Are you sure? Because
Yes, I'm sure.
every Halloween you lose control.
Me going soft. Not in your dreams.
I mean, Ka-chan goes soft for my little brother. Anyway, you might want to run along, Ka-chan, before you keep the other kids waiting.
Oh, he's gone.
Well, I guess I should leave then. Ka-chan? Ka-chan! Ka-chan?
Is that actually you, Izuku, or is that your brother?
I've been out here all day.
Oh,
Ka-chan,
thank God.
Ka-chan, what's going on? Did my brother pull another Halloween prank on you this year again?
Yes.
Oh God, do I want to know what he did?
Let's just go get Halloween candy. I need to forget this.
Okay. By the way, Ka-chan, you like my new Halloween costume this year?
Oh, I love it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I do.
Me and Kirishima decided to switch costumes this year.
You're so adorable. God damn it. So are you Little Red Riding Hood then?
Yeah. I
Guess
don't.
that makes me the big bad wolf, huh?
Ka-chan!
I didn't mean it like that. Jeez.
And of course, no, Rena. Ka-chan doesn't scream running away from trick-or-treaters. We are trick-or-treaters. That was just mean.
Bold of you to assume that I'm the one running away.
Well, Kachan, Kachan, you did run away from that lumberjack cosplayer like 3 days ago.
You would too with the look he gave.
Kachan.
What?
What am I gonna do with you?
Love me, feed me, never leave me.
I wasn't planning to do that, but okay. Kachan, what has gotten into you?
I don't know.
Is the fever getting worse?
It might be.
Because, Kachan, you normally don't act like this around me. You usually try to kill me. Every year.
I'm trying to keep that in check this year, but your brother sure as hell is not helping.
What did my brother do, Kachan?
He's fucking with me again.
Did he show up to you looking like me?
Yes.
Looks like I'm gonna have to have a talk with him later.
Does it every year.
I'm sorry, Kachan. If I'd have known he was gonna bother you this year, I wouldn't have left.
It's alright.
There are 5 people watching this stream. Stop hiding. Say something.
Why are you people hiding? I'm not that scary.
Neither of us are. I'm Little Red Riding Hood, for darn sake.
I mean, look at this thing. Picks up Deku. Look at this cuteness.
Ah! Kachan!
You cannot hide from this. I'm gonna just hug the shit out of it because I need a hug.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Just hug me.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I do have one question, though, Kachan.
Hmm.
Who's a good boy?
I am. Why are you laughing like that?
Aw.
What did you just do to me?
I just pet you, Kachan.
Wherever it was, it felt good.
Do you want me to stop?
No.
Okay. What if
Whatever you're doing is making the weird feeling away.
I wonder. Maybe I should... Are you sure I'm the cute one? Kachan, are you sure you're not the cute one?
Okay, I might be adorable.
Wow, Baku bro. I didn't think you liked Deku that much.
You shut up.
I don't know if I want to, bro.
Fine.
I mean, you were being pretty cute.
Not that cute.
Kachan's adorable.
Not that adorable.
Scratch, 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 scratch. Kachan, you're adorable. Mm-hmm.
I can't be mad at you.
Especially not with me in this outfit.
Yeah, exactly. You're way too adorable.
So does that mean that Kirishima was adorable wearing this? Hey, bro. Hey, bro. Let's not go that far. We're just bros.
I don't want to answer that.
Wait, what?
I'm not answering the question.
Hachan,
What?
answer the question.
Why do you want me to answer the question?
Because I thought Kiri looked kind of cute. Just like how I think Hachan is cute.
You think everyone in this is cute, Deku?
I mean, I'm not wrong. Am I?
Wouldn't assume so, no.
Anyway, come on, Hachan. We got trick-or-treating to do.
Yeah.
Have fun, bro.
You too, Kiri.
I'm gonna go check on Kaminari, see if he's actually gonna join this year or not.
Okay.
Hey, Hachan.
Hmm.
There's a light in the forest.
What the? Why would there be a light in the forest?
Could somebody be in the forest? But it's It's Halloween. Isn't it dangerous?
I would assume so.
Let's go check it out.
Are you sure about that?
I got the big bad wolf with me. Big bad wolf's not gonna not gonna let anything happen to me.
I suppose you're right.
Huh? The light's getting further away.
That's suspicious.
I'm gonna still follow it.
Wait! Don't run. God damn it. Wait for me.
Gotcha.
Deku, where are you? God damn it. Don't hide from me, please.
Gotcha.
Where are you? Find that adorable little laugh of yours. Hell are you hiding? I found you. Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Anyway, I found the light. It's over there.
What was it?
I don't know. It's just over there. It stopped moving. It's over there.
Does this seem suspicious at all to you?
Nope. For some reason, I actually feel pretty, calm by the light.
Well, let's continue following it. I'm gonna trust you.
Yeah. If it's a person, let's try not to spook him.
I know.
Like you did me, Kachan.
Sorry.
No, you're not, Kachan. You just wanted to hear my little scream.
You gotta admit, the little scream of yours is pretty cute.
You're a butt,
Still,
Kachan.
Not as laughable as what happened to Kiri last year when I scared him.
If I remember correctly, didn't he scream like a little girl?
Exactly. I couldn't stop laughing my ass off more than 10 minutes.
I mean, that wasn't as bad as whenever I ended up knocking Todoroki out, and I couldn't figure out whether to say "Are you okay?" or "I'm sorry." So I asked, "Are you sorry?"
That was a little funny.
You couldn't. You still couldn't quit laughing, and that was high school.
Still funny.
Is it because I punched Todoroki?
Yes.
Anyway, come on. Hey, lights moving again.
Well, let's go get it. Swear to God, though, if it's something evil, I'm gonna kill it.
Aren't you gonna kill anything that's evil?
Anything that harms my Deku.
Hotshot.
What?
You're doing it again.
Doing what again?
Being adorable.
Damn it.
Blech. Ugh.
That was adorable. What was?
I'm not adorable.
Yes, you are.
No.
Yes.
I refuse!
You cannot refuse the adorableness.
I refuse!
No.
I refuse!
Do I need to kiss you?
Kachan!
What?
Not here!
Oh, come on. It's not like anyone's gonna see us.
Kachan, that almost made it sound like you wanted to have sex with me in the forest.
That's later.
Huh? Kachan!
If you want to, that is.
Okay, that's better. I never said I didn't, though.
Yeah, see?
Kachan!
Sorry.
The light went away. Where'd it go?
The-
Where'd it go?
That is weird.
Kachan?
What?
Do you have any idea where we're at?
No, don't.
I think we got lost.
God damn it. Ugh, there's no sense around here. It's just stuff that stinks.
Stinks? What does it smell like? Does it smell like rotten flesh or something?
Dirty laundry.
Hold on. Doesn't it kind of smell like rotten onions, brimstone? Does that smell familiar to you?
Yes.
Kachan?
What?
I think we should run.
Why do we need to run?
Kachan! Fire! Brimstone! Rotten flesh! That's the smell that accompanies a demon!
Uh-oh.
Run! Ah! Darn it! Stupid
No.
tree! Stupid tree!
Come on, we need to go.
Kachan?
What? People are calling me a furball now.
Kachan?
What?
I can't move. Tree won't let go.
Wait, that's not a tree.
Ah!
You get the fuck off my Deku.
Missed. Would you really hurt yourself?
What the?
Hi. Kachan? Kachan?
Deku, if I say run, I need you to run.
Kachan, he won't let go.
You will let Deku go right now.
Why should I?
He has no part in this.
Aw, no part in our deal. Kachan, what is he talking about? Ah, so you haven't told him. Well, Looks like it's your only way of getting out of this, now isn't it? Or I could always just take what I came for.
No.
Kachan? Kachan?
Deku. Run. Now. Oh, it's good to be back. Why are you running, little?
Okay. These shoes are not getting me anywhere. Yeet!
Is that supposed to hurt?
No, but it slowed you down.
Yeah, but not for long.
I have another shoe.
I will find you.
Crap. I have no sense of direction.
Oh, look at what's happened now. You have no direction. You don't know where to go. Poor little Izuku is all lost in the woods. I bet he wishes he still had his Bakugou here to help, doesn't he? I mean, I'm still here in a certain sense of a way.
You're not my Kachan.
It's a little green-haired, adorable boy getting feisty on me now. Oh, what's this? Is this a neat little trick that you have?
No. If you were really Kachan, you would know exactly what this is.
You got me. I haven't been here long enough. Maybe I should just take what I came to get and leave.
Fuck howling!
What the? Oh, you are really playing hard to get, little one, aren't you? But how long can you really keep this up?
Ow! Corbin!
Izuku? What the
Corbin!
hell are you doing out here?
Run! Run! Just run! Run!
Oh, shit. Izuku, stand back.
Corbin, just run! He's after me, not you!
I got something that could help.
Eh?
Fucking smoke bomb. Run. What the? I will find you, little Izuku. And I do. Walking fuck we got away from him. I suppose you have many questions?
I know exactly what happened.
Are you sure?
Kachan made a deal with some kind of dark entity.
Incubus.
I figured.
That was Incubus, Bakugou.
I don't want to know. I really don't.
You don't want to know, trust me.
Yay! At least I didn't break my legs this time.
Yeah, for once.
He's not gonna stop searching for me.
Nope. Not until he gets what he came for and...
Or until Halloween runs out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to deal with him all day. Or I should say all night. What is this? Five Nights at Freddy's running away from Baku? That's what it feels like right now. Corbin, did you bring what I asked?
Yeah, I got it right here.
At least I'll have the energy to keep running. Right?
Yeah.
Can I have a few of those smoke bombs?
Yep, here you go.
Thank you. Anyway, now.
I was going to use a lot of these for pranks, but I think they're going to be put to better use now.
Yep, let's see if I can do this without getting stuff on me. Ow.
Are you okay?
Stupid energy drink can. Anyway. Oh, he's coming this way. Get back.
Right.
Back out of sight.
Know you're close, Izuku. You can't hide.
Corbin.
That's all night.
Corbin, I got an idea.
What?
This may be stupid, but
What's your idea?
let's switch costumes.
That is a very dumb, very smart idea. If you think it'll work.
Here.
Alright.
What kind of outfit is it? Corbin, what kind of outfit is this?
Just go with it, okay? Is this even gonna...
Wait, Corbin, didn't this costume come with a wig?
Yeah. Here.
Thanks.
Are you really sure this outfit's gonna fit me?
It should. I'm the same size as you.
Very true. I look like an idiot.
Ooh, I may or may not have had this. Here.
What the... Why would you have this? What is that smell? Shit. You sure this idea is gonna work? Hopefully. That doesn't sound very positive, you know.
No, I got one word for you, Corbin.
Hmm?
Run!
Found you. Looks like I caught you, Izuku. Yeah, you caught me. Ugh. Why do you smell like you haven't showered in a week? Hey, I take my personal hygiene very seriously. I do shower. Ah! You're not Izuku. Yeah, you just stripped me naked, asshole. There you are. Don't you fucking touch him. Fuck.
I mean, it worked for a little while, right?
Yes, but I'm naked.
Put the clothes back on.
I don't have any other clothes.
Ah!
Uh,
Use this at least.
wait, I see a costume shop up ahead.
Well,
Oh god, we made it out of the woods. Oh my god, thank god.
Also, why was there a random building in the woods?
What?
Why was there a random building in the woods?
I don't know.
Anyway, come on. Costume shop. Go, go, go.
Ooh, this'll work.
You look at that one character from Dragon Ball.
Okay, nope, doesn't work.
What was his name? Goku Black?
I mean, it would, but... Aha! Trench coat. Perfect.
You look like Castiel from Supernatural.
That was the point.
Looks like I need to change my outfit now.
I would.
Yeah. Whee! Anyway, let's see.
You might need something with a mask, to be honest.
Got it! How do I look?
You know, that works perfect.
Oh, wait. I got an idea.
Ugh. Ugh. Knew I shouldn't eat some Halloween candy.
Okay, I think that's better.
Yep, that works.
Okay, let's get out of here. Hurry. I'll pay for it. Go.
Okay.
Anyway,
Wait, probably need something to mask your scent too, right?
I mean, true. I got an idea.
That works. Oh, Jesus, you smell worse than apparently I do. But it works. Okay, it works. What the hell was that? Ugly swamp. Oh, say fuck. Whew.
How the fuck did that work?
I don't know, Izuku. I really don't.
Corbin!
Hmm? Ow!
You said my name.
Sorry.
Use the character's name.
Wait, what?
Use the character's I'm being.
Sorry, Michael. Jeez.
Anyway, let's try to get out of here again, because I just got lost again. I have
Yeah,
no...
we need to get the hell out of here.
Neither of us have a sense of direction, do we?
Lucky for us, well, had a sense of direction. The compass is broken. Again.
Corbin.
What?
We're back in the same clearing that I almost got captured in.
We're never gonna get out of here, are we?
Probably not. All we have to do is we've got to deal with this until the end of Halloween.
Yep.
And we all know,
So.
we all know in horror and all this other crap games, it takes forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, looks like we're wandering.
Yep. We'll just have to kind of go slow and just keep an eye out.
I mean, I did grab this on the way out of the costume shop. It's not going to do anything, but it'll still give the... I mean, it looks real.
I mean, yeah.
Wait a minute. Never mind, it's real.
Well, that could work.
Yep.
Well, at least we have a little bit of protection.
Yeah, on my half. What about you?
I don't know. Mom always said it was better at running than anything.
So, basically, she pulled a Todoroki's dad.
I mean...
Nicely spoken, but...
I mean, unless we can find some plants, as you remember, that certain side of me still remembers how to make some traps and other distractions using natural plants found in here. So if we find anything I recognize, we could always make distractions.
True. You mean like those?
Oh, hey. I know exactly what these do. Aha! Perfect. We have a scent lure. You know, all we do is when he gets close is just...
How about this?
Throw this, and it's supposed... Here. Give me a little bit of your hair.
Okay. Ow. Here.
Here. Smell like you?
Yeah. It smells like honeydew and mint.
Perfect.
Oh shit, I hear him. Hide.
Where is Izuku?
Hide. Corbin, hide.
I'm hiding. We're not playing this game all night. He thinks.
Oh, Corbin, I got an idea.
What?
What if I get close to the decoy, use my voice to lure him to the decoy?
That could very much work.
I'm gonna just... Okay. Ouch.
Just don't hurt yourself.
Too late. I already bumped my head. I'm okay. This mask stopped it. The mask stopped it. It's okay. Anyway, here.
Good.
Okay, I'll lift the mask up a bit.
Okay.
Kachan! Hi, Corbin. Let's go this way. This way. Go, Corbin. Go.
I found you.
Corbin, go.
I'm going. What the? You can keep doing this, but eventually you'll run out of tricks. That's what he thinks.
Wait, hold on, Corbin. Aren't you like the son of the god of mischief?
Exactly.
You never run out of tricks, do you?
Nope. I heard that. You heard nothing.
Wait, Corbin, can't you make illusions?
Why the fuck did I not do that?
Oh, over there on the other half of the. Use your voice ventriloquist on the other side of the clearing.
Wait, I have a better idea.
Wait, what?
Give me here. Just give me your hand.
Okay.
Holy shit! It actually worked.
Wait, what?
Look beside you.
Hmm?
Hi!
Ah!
Both of you quiet.
What the fuck did you just do?
I made an illusion clone of you! And he smells exactly like you!
We need to get away from him then! Corbin!
Oh, go over there!
Ah, fuck! Ow. Okay.
Now, at the top of your voice, yell, Kachan, I'm over here.
Wait, me? Or him?
Yes, the clone!
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Go on.
Kachan, I'm over here!
Found you.
Corbin, I think we need to run. Like, legit run.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Run.
Because he's gonna get so pissed when he finds out that's not me.
What the?
Corbin, he's getting pissed.
Tricks you pull. Angrier I get.
Yeah, and if I recall, the angrier that an Incubus gets, the smarter they get. Corbin.
What?
The angrier an Incubus gets, the smarter they get.
You don't think I know that?
What the fuck are we gonna do now?
I don't know. So let me get this straight. I'm gonna sense the partner you're with knows how to do illusions and knows tricks.
Oh no.
And I would suspect at this point you two are wearing disguises.
Oh shit.
Probably not smelling like yourselves.
Shit. See what I mean, Corbin?
Don't know what you look like, nor do I know what you smell like. So, you still have that. For now. Bitch.
Told you. He's pissed.
What time is it anyway?
It's 2 o'clock.
Son of a bitch.
Hey. We still have until like 7:15 in the morning.
This is gonna take forever, isn't it?
I mean, it always does in a horror movie.
Very true.
Except the problem is, this is not a horror movie!
Nope.
I'm just gonna hide in this tree.
Yeah, maybe we can just hide in these trees. Maybe we'll just hide in trees until it's morning and...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You said this guy's like the Incubus King, right?
Yeah? Why?
Doesn't he have wings?
Yes?
And can't Incubus climb trees?
I don't know. I'm not the expert on incubuses.
Incubi. Get it right.
You know what I mean.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know. God, I wish Mom was here.
I want my Kachan back.
Wait a minute.
Wait, hold on. Corbin!
Huh?
Can't you, like, mind link with your mom?
Oh, I can sure as hell try.
What's the matter, Corbin?
We're trapped. Izuku and I are trapped in the woods with an Incubus King Bakugou.
Let me guess. Possession?
Yep.
I'm on my way.
How long will that take?
Hi. Don't fall out of the tree, Corbin.
I'm trying not to, but it doesn't help when you just show up and scare us like that. Jesus.
Sorry. Do you want me to keep distracting him?
We just. Do you think you could separate these two or something? I don't know.
Nope. That's demon possession. I'm not gonna mess with that. But I can distract him long enough for you guys to get out of here. I mean, that could work, right, Corbin?
I guess.
We might as well trust your mom's judgment.
I mean, she's never wrong, really.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I got an Incubus King to torment and to piss off. This is gonna be fun.
Oh boy.
Hi. Oh, don't growl at me, you idiot.
This Aizawa.
Hello, Incubus King.
Been a long time since we've had a chat.
Mm-hmm.
If you just kindly hand over Izuku, I'll just be on my way and I'll let you all have a nice day.
Sadly, I don't know where he's at.
Well, they're somewhere out here, aren't they?
Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that I sensed you possessing my prized student.
So?
He did a stupid ritual back in high school, didn't he?
Yep.
And you're not gonna leave Izuku alone until you find him.
Nope.
Or until, of course, after 7:15 in the morning.
That too.
You know, Izuku's very smart.
Oh, you have no doubt.
And the fact that one of my sons is with him.
I figured as much.
The son of Loki, specifically.
I figured after the little illusions and the trickery.
Yeah.
What's it gonna take, huh?
It's not going to take anything, because I'm not going to let you touch either one of my students. Instead, I'm just going to piss you off even more. Aww. Oh, what are you gonna do? Aww. You think your mom's gonna be okay, Corbin?
Think she can handle him?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trusting your judgment. Also, apparently somebody asked if aren't you allowed to access Asgard? I don't think you can.
I haven't been able to access Asgard fully.
Anyway.
My father kind of disappeared on me before he really got a chance to show me.
Anyway, come on, let's go. Just
Yeah.
let's steer clear of that clearing.
Yeah.
I can't breathe in this mask. He already knows we're wearing masks at this point. Does it really matter anymore?
I mean, Mother's there, so his mind's gonna be more focused on her than us, I think.
You know what? I'm gonna risk it. Oh my god, this whole outfit stinks.
Yeah, I know how you feel. We're gonna need major showers after this.
Yep. If not, I'm gonna jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Fuck. Hey, where you looking, buddy? Come on. Aren't you gonna try to fight me back?
Why would I make a fool mistake like that again?
I mean, you're getting mad, aren't you?
Yes.
I wonder what would happen if I kicked you in the nuts again. Oh my god, your mother just saved my life again. Oh my god, Corbin, your mother just saved my ass again.
Yeah, we over big time.
Woo! Holy shit! Hey!
What?
Hey, I see a break in the forest.
Should we sneak there or just run for it?
You run for it, I'm gonna stay back here a little bit. Make sure that it's not our bad sense of direction.
Alright, I'm gonna just go.
Oh, hey, Corbin, bro.
Oh shit, it's Kirishima.
Dude, you look like you've been through shit. Oh my god, you smell like shit. Ah! Whew.
Izuku, over here, quickly, it's Kiri.
Oh my god, you both smell like shit. Oh.
Long fucking story, Kiri. Not really in the mood for it right now.
Also, why were you guys in the forest? Isn't it like off limits on Halloween?
I know. But I saw Bakugou and Izuku go into the forest. I figured I would follow them and make sure they weren't going to get lost. And we got attacked by an Incubus King Bakugou.
Huh?
Long
Wait.
story. Long story short, Mother has to save my ass again, and Izuku's.
Of course. I guess you guys come with me, I guess.
Yeah, can you get us the fuck away from here, please? Uh-oh.
What's up, bro?
Kiri, we need to leave, like, now, and as fast as we can.
I guess, come on, then.
Faster. Like, your life fucking depends on it,
I'm
Kiri.
running as it is, bro!
Izuku, get on my shoulders.
I could keep
on
up.
My back.
I could keep up. I'm not wearing any shoes.
Running! Oh, shit!
Holy shit, Izuku's fast! Come on, over here. Here's hoping Izuku bro can outrun something like that, because he went like hella fast ahead of us.
I'm pretty sure Izuku can outrun that thing. Wait, we can't just lead that thing into the city, can we?
I think that's already a little late, don't you think? We're already...
Great, what are the other heroes gonna do?
Other heroes? Bro, where are the pro heroes? Shit. Corbin, you stay here.
Okay. I'm gonna see if this building has the fucking shower in it. Oh. Just don't do anything, Kirsten.
Hey, bro.
I don't think we've met.
Nice outfit, Baku bro.
Oh, so you must be the one he dubbed Shitty Hair.
I'm gonna let that slide, bro. Oh, what's...
I'm gonna have fun ripping it to pieces.
I'd like to see you try.
Do you have any idea how many humans I've killed?
Come at me, bro.
What the?
I did say come at me, didn't I?
A hardening quirk, huh?
Yep. And guess what?
This is gonna be fun. Oh no.
Oh, why'd you run into that building, bro? Oh, come on. You ain't gonna try to tap into my best bro's abilities? Good thing my quirk has advanced in hardness, huh?
God damn it, Kirishima, don't piss it off anymore.
Ha!
Izuku, I hope you found a good spot to fucking hide.
Oh, what's the matter, bro? I thought you were stronger than that. Corbin. I see Kirishima's fighting the demon.
Yeah, and he's only pissing it off even more.
I mean, he is technically doing us a favor by distracting him, isn't he?
Yes.
Where's Izuku?
We have no idea.
Ah, shit.
We lost him. He just kind of ran off, you know. You know, I can try and find him.
Go do it. Now. Go find him. You know, this is getting boring, bro.
Then let's make this interesting.
What?
Kiri.
Baku, bro? No. Nope. Not even gonna try that. I'm not as stupid as I look. Do I look like Denki to you?
Kiri. He's behind you.
I know. Forget about that.
You're starting to really piss me off, kid.
Huh. Never mess with a person that's got the abilities of a shark.
You fell right for it.
Eh.
Haven't you figured it out yet?
I know. He knows. And you forget about my abilities, Incubus King. Do you forget I have the God Quirk? If he dies, I could just bring him back.
We could just make this simple, you know.
What?
Give me what I want.
None of us are gonna let you have Izuku. Izuku doesn't belong to you.
Have you even read the contract? Did you read the contract
No.
Mr. Bakugou over here signed?
No, because
Look at here. Right there clearly states Izuku becomes mine.
Yeah, but you know what's so funny about you stupid demons in your contracts?
What?
Let's see, scrolling all the way down, almost partially off the paper. Oh, look! Small print! You stupid demons don't read your own contracts, do you?
You really think any of us have the time for that?
Let's see. Oh, Bakugou! You didn't even read the small print either, did you?
No.
Well, you might want to start reading stuff like this because you like Deku, yes?
Yeah.
More than anything?
Mm-hmm.
You know what makes this contract completely void?
What?
Marriage proposal.
I wasn't trying to rush things, you know?
Bakugou, you've known Deku since childhood. You guys are in college now. You demons don't have time to read your own damn contracts. I'm just gonna roll this back up. Come here, Incubus King. You and your stupid contracts. There's your stupid contract. Bakugou.
What?
Here you go. You're fixed. You're fine. Oh, also, I see this, by the way, Incubus King. Is this a big giant string that's connecting you to Bakugou right now?
What the?
Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. If I just, Bakugou, go find Izuku, now.
I'm already on it. No, you don't.
Oh, oops. I'm sorry. Did that hurt by tripping? I'm just gonna put my foot right here. Do-do-do. How the hell did you find me, Corbin?
I don't know, okay? I was just looking. I thought, where would Deku hide? And I decided to check here, okay?
I need to really stop running back home to the dorms.
No, because it makes me easier to find you.
So,
Oh, it does.
So, what happened? I ran off because I heard his laugh. What happened?
Let's just say I don't know exactly what's happened yet.
Ah! What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm gonna stay right in front of this door and I'm gonna hold it shut. Because this stupid dorm room does not have a lock.
Why did they never put locks on these stupid dorms?
I don't know, but I'm holding this door closed. Corbin, help me.
I'm helping. Izuku, let me in.
I'm not falling for that.
Hold on, me. That is Bakugou. It's not Incubus. Let him in. Let him in.
Corbin, think about this. It could be a trick. Remember? Pissed off demons, pissed off Incubus, get smarter.
Son of a bitch, you're right.
Fine. If you're actually Kachan, what was the exact thing you told me in middle school?
I love you.
Wait, what?
What?
Quack? No! Okay! What I meant was, what was the first thing you told me in middle school when I was quirkless?
Go jump off a building. I think that Incubus did more damage to Bakugou's brain than he thinks. You know I can hear you.
Kachan, what were the exact words you told me? Say them!
Why don't you take a swan dive off a really tall building? Who knows, maybe you'll be born with a quirk in your next life.
Kachan!
About damn time.
Kachan, I can't help it. You look like shit, Kachan. I don't want to know about that hole in your body right now.
Just don't worry about it for now. How the hell did you know we were here? It's Deku.
I know, I'm stupid. Leave me alone.
Well, apparently you were somewhat smart because the Incubus King never thought to look here.
True. Well, then again, hasn't he been being distracted this entire time?
Yes, but he's been getting a lot more pissed.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that once he can get away from Miss Aizawa, pretty sure he already knows where we're both at.
Maybe.
Kachan? Kachan?
What?
Get in here! Hurry! Close the door! Best thing about Incubus, just like vampires, they can't come in here unless invited. I'm not letting you in.
You will let me in, Izuku.
No, I will not. I guess we're safe for now. As long as someone stupid doesn't try to open the door. Fuck. Corbin, can't you create things too?
Yeah?
I don't know. Create something that could easily lock this door? That works too.
Okay.
Kachan, at least we have a lock on our door right now.
Yeah.
Now what the hell happened out there, Kachan?
Incubus King separated himself from me to basically create an ultimatum, and it didn't work.
Let me guess. Kirishima went up against him.
Yep.
So that explains the, dorsal fin, like, stab wound to your stomach.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
For now, Miss Aizawa treated it, but it still hurts like hell.
Let's at least wrap it, at least.
Yeah.
Lay on the bed, Kachan.
Way ahead of you.
Corbin, go in the bathroom and get the first aid kit. The big one, not the little one.
Already on it.
This Halloween is shit. Wait, what time is it? God damn it, it was only 30 minutes? This is gonna be hell.
We're never gonna get out of here. Okay, here it is.
Thank you. Kachan, this is gonna hurt like a bitch, because I'm gonna have to stitch that hole up.
Just do it.
Fine.
I think I'm already in enough pain as it is. I think I can take it.
Okay, hopefully you can.
Oh, here's to nothing, I guess.
At least it didn't go all the way through, right?
Yeah.
Oh dear God, please tell me it didn't go all the way through.
It didn't.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Okay. Well, that part's done. Well,
Yeah.
the next part's gonna be even worse because it's the ointment. This is gonna sting like hell. Sorry, Kachon. Let's just put this here. Sorry, Kachon.
I'm okay.
Okay. Now the bandages. Bandages. Ah, there they are. Okay. Ugh. I swear I'm not going out on another Halloween night again.
You and me both.
Kachon, why did you make a deal with an Incubus?
I was trying to make you fall in love with me.
Wait. You made a deal with an Incubus because you thought I didn't love you?
Yeah, I know. Stupid, right?
Corbin, did I hear that correctly?
I heard it too, so yes.
Also, shut the hell up out there, Incubus. You ain't getting in here.
I don't know how long the door's gonna keep him out though, Izuku. I really don't.
Again, he cannot physically enter any place without someone inviting him in. So even if the door was open, he still can't get past the actual door frame.
Well, at least we're saved for that.
I could literally give an example.
What? Damn it.
You weren't invited in. And I'm not walking out. And there is no way you can get me even remotely to walk out there. No trick.
Hey guys, what the... Denki, don't you even think about it.
Eh? No, Dinky! No. You know what?
I'm not even gonna ask, I'm just gonna go back to my room. That's the first smart decision he's ever made in his entire life.
Yep.
Oh, I thought we were so
Hey, it's
screwed.
fucking 2:30. You want to
Hey.
keep it down?
Yeesh. Yeesh. Anyway. Anyway. Also, that is a good question. Why haven't we asked Todoroki for help?
Don't know.
Corbin, don't you have your cell phone on you?
It's on my desk.
Kachan, your phone?
Over there on the table.
Right. Okay. Wait, I have a better person to call. Oh, I don't know why I'm doing this, but we need help. Hope this works.
Hello?
Davi!
What the... Why are you calling me?
Well, to be honest, this is gonna sound stupid, but do you think you could, come over here by, the university? My dorm area? Please? And you'll see you'll see the exact reason why I'm asking. We need help.
Are you sure I'm just gonna be able to walk right over?
I mean, you're not that far away. The university's right by the hideout.
I meant without getting attacked.
I don't think you'll get attacked. Of course, if I keep doing this. Stubby, did you hear that?
You messed with the Incubus King again, didn't you?
I didn't mess with him. Apparently, according to Kachan, he made a deal with him.
The nerve of that dumbass. I'll be right over.
Thanks, Dobby.
Oh, now we just sit here and wait, I guess?
I'm also calling Todoroki.
How many people do we need, though?
As many as we can get.
Very true.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to hand the phone over to Kachan to talk to Todoroki. Here you go, Kachan. Why are you calling me, Bakugou?
I need help.
What's going on?
The stupid Incubus I made a deal with a long time ago is back.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Let me guess. He's after Izuku.
Yep.
You're in the dorm room.
Yep.
On my way.
Thank you.
And now we just sit and wait.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just gonna have to sit here on the floor, right, close, not too close to the door, and just keep the Incubus King's attention on me, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just gonna. You can't get to me. Aw, is the poor widow Incubus King getting mad? I mean, no offense, Corbin, but he's not that bad looking. I mean, he looks like Kachan. He looks like Kachan after all, but he's not that bad looking.
No.
But that doesn't mean I'm gonna go anywhere near him.
True.
Ooh, looks like one of his horns cracked. I wonder if he noticed that. Well, I guess he noticed it now. Hey, Corbin, do you have any... Kachan, you seem to know more about incubi. What happens if the king's horns get broke? Actually, you know what? I'm going to look this up. Good thing I have my computer here. Let's see. There's only one weakness of the incubi and the succubi.
Which is?
The weakness of incubi and succubi lie in the fact they act upon emotion. Should one be able to win their heart, they are sure to live to tell about the experience of being with an incubus.
Okay, that narrows down.
But the fact that he's the king is probably gonna make it a little worse. This is gonna be hell.
Fuck it, I can't do it anymore.
Huh?
Wait, why are you getting on a knee?
Kachan?
Deku? Izuku, Midoriya, would you marry me?
This is not.
Say no. Shut up, Incubus.
Kachan, this is not a joke, is it?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Well, no, you're not one for jokes.
I'm not joking.
Kachan.
What? It's so cute. Got you. No, no.
You know, it's kind of sad, really. Wrong person. Incubus King.
What the?
Hi, remember me?
No. Where the hell is Izuku? What's the Varian?
Ah. Good thing I know where my actual little brother is. Good thing I can easily look like my little brother. Kachan. Izuku's not here.
Where the hell is he?
You should know where he's hiding. It's yours and his favorite spot. Since childhood.
Why didn't I think of that?
Question is, why didn't Corbin think of that? Both of you go find my brother. I'll deal with the Incubus King. Oh, what's the matter? Don't like a bit of a choke? Or is it the burning sensation? I wonder, should I tighten my grip? I can distract you all night long. Because I know exactly what Kachan's gonna do when he finds my little brother. And I know exactly the words that my little brother will say. Of course, though, I'm not gonna make it easy for them. Did you forget who I am, Incubus King? Or should I say what I am? Just gotta give them a little bit of a head start. Here's hoping you can stop it once I let you go. 'Cause if not, you're gonna be alone forever. Of course, until somebody else decides to summon you. I think that's enough of a head start. There. I'm sorry about that burning sensation. Just had to make my point. Shoo shoo. Bros! Ow. My freaking leg. Anyway. Corbin! Baku bro!
What?
Oh shit. By the way, Baku bro, I am so sorry about that.
It's fine.
You guys looking for Izuku bro?
Yeah.
Where was yours and his favorite spot?
It's the crick. Need to go there now.
Well, we better hurry. Wait a minute. How did you guys get away from the Incubus King?
Varian.
You let a villain try to stop him, Baku bro?
It was devil Varian, okay?
Again, you trust Varian?
Not fully, no.
Do you honestly think that he's gonna stop him for long?
Nope.
If I know Varian any much than you guys do, he just gave you guys a head start.
Like what we were planning on.
Go. I'll try to keep him distracted again if he comes past this way.
Alright.
Corbin, don't you dare let him fail on me. Do you understand me, bro?
Like I'm gonna let Bakugou fail on this.
Go.
Alright.
Looks like
Be
I'm...
careful, Kiri.
Oh, I'm gonna do something that I never thought I would be able to do again.
Oh boy.
Ow. Okay. That was overdoing it. Ow.
It seems you overdid it.
I just needed to slow you down.
You people really are not making this an easy day for me, are you?
Nope, because we don't like you.
You don't have to like me.
What the hell is going on, Kirishima? Todoroki, bro! Finally! Ah. That's the problem. Okay. Looks like I gotta do this then. Wait, Todoroki, bro, what are you doing?
That hurt a little, you know.
Good. Todoroki, bro, you okay? I'm fine. Pay attention to him. Right. Oh, what are you laughing about?
Looks like you might be in a little bit of pain there.
Do I look like I'm in pain? You don't even know the meaning of pain. Besides, you're going after Izuku when there are other people. Besides, you could have anybody you wanted here. You are the Incubus King, or are you the Incubus Pansy? Todoroki, bro, what the fuck are you doing?
You're just trying to get me mad, aren't you?
I don't know. It takes a pussy to get angry over words. Oh, what's so funny?
You want to fight me that bad, don't you?
I mean, it's target practice. You're not worth my time.
Alright then.
Todoroki, bro!
Got you now, little punk.
Didn't realize I had two quirks, now did you? Or are you just too stupid?
I knew you had two of them, but I didn't know you had the balls to use both at the same time.
Aw, what's the matter? Incubus afraid of a little fire?
Breed. And breed.
You've got no chance against either of us. Todoroki, bro. Kirishima, don't pay attention to me. So you decided to show up, brother.
I could let you have all the fun.
No.
Guess we need to finish this little bastard off then. Looks like you let yourself get carried away.
You think?
You realize what happens when that happens, right?
Yep. My entire right side is completely useless right now. Well, hey, it's to save my friend. Besides, I still got my left side.
Just don't be too damn reckless now.
Oh, you mean like you were?
Exactly.
I wonder what would happen if we mixed our fire.
Let's try it.
Ready?
Always.
Let's do it!
Think we got him?
Hopefully. At least, hopefully it slowed him down enough.
You know that really hurt. Oh. Oh.
Is it just me, or is he missing a horn?
Oh, he's missing a lot of things.
Yeah, except his limbs are growing back.
Huh.
Wait a minute. If his limbs are growing back, why isn't his horn growing back? Aw, did we knock him down a peg from king to servant?
I think we must have.
I wonder how much more power he can have now. I do not like the fact that his eyes changed to completely black, Dobby.
Neither do I.
I'm gonna pull another stupid.
Oh boy.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Hopefully. Ow.
You idiot.
Just,
Don't kill yourself.
I'd rather die than watch Izuku become something he doesn't want to be.
For once, I actually agree with you again.
Ugh. Todoroki, bro!
God damn it.
What the hell did you do to him?
Not what I did to him, it's what he did to himself.
Don't give me that fucking bullshit. I saw that black come from your body.
I just simply repelled his own attack back at him.
Davi, what the hell do we do?
Looks like it's only us two now.
I'm not as powerful as either you or Todoroki, bro.
Well, you're gonna have to do it, kid. We're only here as a distraction, remember?
I know.
I hope those two idiots have found it by now.
I hope so too. What the fuck? What the fuck?
God damn it. I have a feeling I know who it came from.
What the?
Really think you're strong enough to do it?
What?
He's vanishing. Varian gave him a little one-up. At least you could trust it.
What the fuck?
What the? Hiroshima, look out!
What?
That's cute, flame boy. just... You failed. Let's say you failed. You failed your mission, Incubus. Izuku, I need an answer.
Just, come on.
I need the answer now.
I know, but come on. It would be better to see his reaction when I do it in front of him.
Alright.
Hey! You failed!
I never fail.
And of course, Izuku looked over at Bakugou and just nodded a little bit, to redo his proposal.
Izuku, will you marry me?
Yes, Katsuki Bakugou.
Looks like you're too late, Incubus. Bye-bye.
Not so fast. That's the funny thing. That's the funny thing. Katsuki wasn't the only one that had made a contract with this Incubus King. So did I. Our contract's different. Do you want to know why he's been after Izuku so much?
Explain.
Our contract. He wasn't to steal Izuku away from you, Katsuki. He was to kill him in front of you. Why do you think I gave him the power-up?
You would risk killing your own brother.
I don't care about my brother. I don't care about any of you. Not even you. Toya Todoroki.
I always knew you never cared for me. But this is a whole new low.
I can go even lower. I killed Toga. And I'm about to do it to Shigaraki. But of course I wanted to sit back and watch the show. Because he may have failed Katsuki's contract, but ours is still in motion.
It's easy how much you forget, Varian. There's still one major card left on the table.
What?
You can come out of hiding now, Mother. I know you've been out here long enough.
Yeah, I've been watching this whole thing play out. God damn it. I'm not gonna let you touch my student. Did I not tell you this earlier? You wanna know why?
Why is that?
Because even your contract with Varian is all but void now. Varian forgot to mention, or I should say you forgot to mention, that you brainwashed Varian to make the contract? Why do you think Varian's acting like this, Dabi? Do you really honestly think that he would have killed Toga and Shigaraki, the two most powerful next to you in his organization?
I guess you're right.
Besides, the contract you made with Varian, Incubus King, was never made. because he had to make it out of sound mind, not brainwashed. I'd like to see you try to lay a finger on Izuku Midoriya without the help of Varian.
Challenge accepted.
Miss Aizawa! What the?
Don't worry, Izuku.
Believe me, Izuku. I've always got a trump card up my sleeve. That was a very bad joke. I am never doing that again. Anyway. Wait, what? Here you go. But Miss Aizawa, just do it. Do your United States a smash. Okay. I'm kind of scared too. Just do it. Okay. I told you you had to fight him without help of Varian. But that didn't mean I couldn't give Izuku my quirk. Izuku? Fine.
What? Why?
I'm a hero. I'm not taught to kill. I'm taught to help. Doesn't matter if you're a villain or if you're a hero or a demon. So, will you let me help you?
You can try.
Let's start with this then. hold on, Bakugo. Don't get mad. I know what he's doing. Remember what he read online, Bakugo? If you're able to do what to an incubus, it's their weakness.
With their heart.
And to win an incubus' heart, you have to fill them with light, purity. And who here is the only one with the purest of heart?
A nerd.
You think it's over, right, Bakugo?
I think so.
Wrong. Watch. See?
Oh, would you look at that?
Bakugo, look.
So it really is me. Why is everyone here so big?
Hey, it's okay.
Who are you?
Watch what he says. It's like, because, well, I guess you could say, I'm the #1 hero. I saved you. You got taken over, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Jealousy?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because you almost lost your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Because of your pride?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you remind me of someone.
Like him? Hey.
Yeah, just like him. But you want to know something? He used his pride for good. And so can you.
I guess I could try.
He's the #2 hero. He's you.
Izuku.
Yeah? Kachan?
How is this?
Kachan, I think this is a part of you that was missing. The childhood that you had. What do you think, Kachan?
So.
I wonder. Little Kachan. Hey, little Kachan. I think you need to go back where you belong. Here, Kachan.
Thanks.
How do you feel, Kachan?
Much better.
I'm glad. Don't do that stupid shit again.
Sorry.
Now, I gotta go find a new costume. Costume shop?
Costume shop.
Let's see what we can find. I wonder, I'm gonna try this on. I don't like this. I do not like this. Kachan, I don't like this. I don't like this, Kachan.
What's the matter?
I don't know. What do you think?
What even are you?
I don't even know. I just found it. I thought it was cool.
I mean, it is cool, but figured you of all people would just pick something adorable, but
I was trying to go for scary. I'm gonna choose something else. Ooh, I kind of like this one. How do you even get this on? Ooh, okay, there we go. Okay. Oh god, I don't know how you're gonna react to this, Kachan.
Well, let's see.
What about this?
What did... Love it.
I mean, you know what? I'm gonna go put this, the rest of this stuff on. Because it's only part of it. Okay. How do I look?
Yeah, that's plenty scary.
Is it? Eh? Why would they have this as a costume? I'm gonna try this on, though. I don't know why, but I wanted to try this on. I'm being weird. Leave me alone. What about this?
Are you supposed to be the slime?
It's called the Sludge Villain. Get it right. I don't know why they even have this as a costume.
I don't know.
You know what? I think I'm gonna get this one. I don't know why, but I'm really attached to this one. I'm really attached to this one. You know what? I'm gonna get this one.
Go for it.
Yep, I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna buy this one.
Alright.
Hey, Kachan. Why don't we match?
Alright.
I wonder. Ooh, I found one that's even more scary. I found one that's even more scary, Kachan. Here, go put this on.
Okay. How do I look?
Actually,
Scary for you.
no, not scary enough. Go try this one on.
Alright. How do I look?
Ah, yep, scary enough. Great. It fits you like a glove.
Thanks.
Anyway, come on. Okay, come on. Let's go. Let's go ask opinions from Corbin and the others.
Alright.
Hey, Corbin.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you two are scary.
Yeah, you two are scary.
You got too quiet. What? You got too quiet. Corbin, you okay?
Yeah.
You're quiet. Is it because of the costume?
I don't know.
Kachan, I think we're too scary for him.
Means we did a good job.
True. Hmm. 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 I wonder. Hey, Kachan, do you feel strange? Kachan, do you feel a bit strange?
Just a little bit. Why?
Gotchon, why is my head fuzzy?
My head's getting fuzzy too. Your eyes are going red. Is it?
Baku, bro? Corbin, what's going on?
I have no idea.
Why the heck are they dressed like that?
Uh-oh. I don't think those were costumes.
I'm kind of terrified, Corbin, bro.
You and me both, Carrie.
Baku, bro? Baku, bro. Yeah. You okay? You good there? Corbin, bro, I'm terrified.
Those definitely were not costumes.
That was a Venom symbiote, wasn't it?
Yep. And I'm pretty sure that was a sludge that just took over Deku. Great. We thought our hero adventures couldn't get any more fun tonight, huh?
I don't like what they're conspiring together with.
Same.
Should we run?
Definitely.
Running!
Run!
Where are you going? Ah! I forgot that the sludge villain can do that. Ow, my face. And now we're upside down. Woo! Blood's gonna rush to my head.
Yay!
What should we do with them, Gotchon?
I don't know.
I mean, we can't just eat them. Yeah, please don't eat me. I don't taste good.
I don't have any meat on me.
Besides, if you were gonna try to eat that one, Gotchon, it just uses quirk. You know, it hurt.
True.
I mean, not this one, of course. This guy's got flabby everywhere. Are you sure? Are you sure you don't have any meat on you, Billy?
Nope, it's all just useless fat. Nothing appetizing here. Kiri, I don't like this.
I don't like this either, bro.
We're gonna ruin them.
We're gonna get really fucked up.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you are. Me, not so much. This is not fun, bro.
No.
Ah, maybe I should try talking.
Oh, you two quit whining.
Yeah, this one's useless anyway. Ah! Hey! I'm not useless. Oh. Oh. I don't know. Kachan. You make the choice. Is he useless? I mean, he was your friend.
Not sure. I mean, he is disciple of Aaron's quirk, but...
Katsuki Bakugou! Oh. Looks like he's using your full name on you now. Instead of that stupid little nickname. This isn't you! Really? Haven't we all heard that phrase before?
Too many times.
Bakugou, what would your mother think of you if she was alive right now? Knowing your mother, if she was alive right now, Bakugou, she'd probably punch you. This isn't you, Katsuki. It really isn't. Todoroki, bro! You're okay! Yep. Katsuki Bakugou. I know you can hear me. But you know, there's one thing that could get that thing off of you. Kirishima? You've got your strong quirk, your hardening quirk. Yeah. You see those, what are those called? Middle beams? Yeah. The hollow ones? Yeah. Grab them and stab them in the ground right in front of him. Are you crazy? Just do it. Okay.
I think he's getting hungry.
What's this supposed to do? What the fuck?
What?
Oh, hell no. Hey, Todoroki.
I think you know what to do here.
Oh shit.
Light me on fire, damn it.
Kirishima.
Fucking light it on fire. No.
Fine. Ow. Damn it. Dobby!
Right? Where are you? Well, that thing's gone. What about the other one now?
Baku, bro. I don't know how to get the sludge villain off of Izuku.
Damn it. I would suggest freezing it, but I think Todoroki can't do that for a while.
I don't like that, Baku, bro.
Yeah, there.
Damn it. I can't use my fucking quirk.
No, but I still could.
No. I can. Uh?
What the? What the?
What the fuck? What?
What the?
Dad?
Uh-oh.
Dobby, get out of here before he sees you.
What hit you?
You're gonna let go of the kid? You really think I'm gonna let him go? You're wrong. Well, then I guess I'm gonna have to burn you off of him then. You really want to try that? You're gonna hurt the kid. That's a risk I have to take. Guys, I don't think Endeavor is entirely happy, bros.
I would say not.
But is he really gonna hurt Deku, bro? Just to get the sludge villain off of him?
He might.
Should we stop him?
You really think that's a good idea?
Wait. Baku, bro! You're engaged to him! Maybe you can get through to Deku!
It's worth a shot.
You might as well try before I end up lighting this kid on fire.
Izuku?
Don't get too close, boy. I might take you too.
You really think I care at this point, Izuku?
Izuku?
You can burn. You can stab me, kill me, whatever you wanted to do. All
All I want to do is spend the rest of my happy life with you. Really think I'm gonna let some stupid little sludge monster stop me from enjoying my life with the one I love? I mean, listen to yourself. This isn't you. You're not a villain. What would your own mother say if she saw you like this? What would All Might say to you right now?
You think I care about All Might?
You may not care for him, but he cares for you, Izuku. Why else would he give you his quirk?
Gachan, I don't think you realize that I don't want to be saved.
So does that mean that promise to me was a lie?
No.
Why would you do this to me, Deku?
Gachan.
I was willing to give up my life for you, and you won't even do the same for me?
Gachan. Bakugou, I think you're getting through to him.
So all this time while I loved you, you were shoving me aside? You never really loved me, did you?
That's
You
not
just used
true.
me.
Gachan, it's not true.
Then if it wasn't true, then show me. Break away from this evil monster, then, and prove to me who you really are. Otherwise, you're gonna lose me. Come on, Izuku Midoriya. Who are you really? You're gonna be the #1 hero. Try to beat me fair and square into that position? Or are you gonna be some sort of monster bait? That's the Izuku I know.
you okay, Izuku?
I think so. What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
God, John, you're mean.
I only said those things to make you stronger, didn't I?
You're still mean.
Deku, we always knew you loved me. I mean, those little looks you gave me during lunch. Come on, Deku. Even I could see the looks you were giving him. It was obvious. Half the time I wanted to just shove you near him and just be like, just kiss already. What the? Okay. No. Just saying. Why do I hang out with you? Whoa.
Oh, Corbin.
What?
I want to test this out.
Why?
Come here, Corbin.
No, no, no. Izuku, don't hurt him. Izuku, don't you dare start falling away from me again, damn it.
Gotcha. I don't know what's going on. Gotcha. Help.
I don't know how to help you.
Bakugo.
What?
That's a new quirk.
What?
That's a part of One for All. If the rest of his quirks show up, if he doesn't know how to control them, the quirk will take him over, just like All for One took over his father.
How do we prevent that?
Keep him in the light.
Guess we have a choice then, huh?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What would you want me to do? Just walk up and kiss him? Wait.
Yeah. Bakugo, keep doing it.
Oh, okay. It's a little embarrassing, but it's for you.
Bakugo, you're engaged to the stupid little butt. Stop that.
This is the first time I'm doing this in public, okay?
And?
Fair point. feeling any better? I got you, Izuku. I got you. My little husband.
I knew that was gonna happen. Here's hoping that it doesn't get any worse. Well, this was fun while it lasted. Come on, Corbin, let's go home.
Yep.
Bakugo, have fun with your fiance. Anyway.
I will.
Whoa!